For my PhD program, which I just recently concluded, I actually worked on looking at the vector competence of mosquitoes, and what that means is basically how good our mosquitoes are transmitting the different kinds of parasites that are found in birds. Well, it was kind of a long journey. I originally I wanted to become a veterinarian. I was at Colorado State University for my undergrad, and then I started working after that with the National Wildlife Research Center, and I was working on avian influenza. And so I started to like birds a lot, and then I figured I wanted to do more disease research, so I found somebody I was looking for somebody who would actually do that kind of research, and I found my professor for my master's, Ravinder Sehgal. And actually, I went to an island during my master's in the middle of the Pacific. It's called Socorro Island. I had to go there in a patrol boat with the Mexican Navy, which was a very fascinating experience. And while on the island, we were collecting samples from birds to test them for different diseases. And while there, I also decided to collect mosquitoes. And so I did a crash course with my PI now for my PhD on how to trap mosquitoes. And since then, I really realized that the vector component, or the mosquitoes haven't been looked at very much. And so that's why I decided to go on and do a PhD looking at the interactions between the parasites, the host, and the vector. You have to keep in mind that there's about 10,000 species of birds, and so the diversity within the birds, I guess, can help drive that. And they migrate to different locations, so each location has a different kind of climate, different vectors, and so that can help with that, I guess. And then parasites can either be generalists or specialists, and what that means is that some parasites can infect multiple species that are distantly related, and then there are the ones that are specialists that tend to only infect like one species or only closely related species of birds. So that also plays a role as well. I think that I have provided some evidence that mosquitoes in avian malaria system, it's a very complicated system, and not all mosquitoes can vector parasites equally, so they can't transmit every single Plasmodium species equally. And so that just provides support in having a little bit more, we can't generalize, I guess I should say, and that we should focus more on each location and look at it in more detail and to take into account, the mosquito, the role of the mosquito, because every place is going to be different. And so just because one species vectors a particular Plasmodium parasite in one place doesn't mean that it's going to do it somewhere else. And so I feel like I've hopefully going to bring more attention to that and convince people that it's worthwhile to actually study mosquitoes. When it comes to conservation, especially for birds, if we want to do a very good job at coming up with a management plan for something like that, taking a serious look at the vectors, and not just by screening them like traditional methods, but also doing some experimental infections to determine what's really going on would be really important, especially because there's a lot of co-infections in nature, and people tend to overlook co-infections, but I think it's really important to dive into that a lot more and try to understand and tease apart how these multiple infections can have an impact.